comes Tony, walking in the room, mic in hand, something's about to boom. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Sit right down, let me hear your voice. Share your thoughts, Tony gives you choice. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. Your voice speaks, Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. You got something to say every single day. He's got something to say. Come on out and play. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony. Big Tony speaks.
What is going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well today. And we got a interesting situation, or had. It has apparently been fixed, but a little unusual issue on the Artemis mission to the moon. And we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about a few other things as well. But we're going to talk about this issue that they had in their trek to the moon and back. And before we get started, I request respectfully that you do me a favor and go down and hit that thumbs up. Show me some love, like the video or like the live stream. We are today streaming to Rumble, YouTube, and Twitch. So show me some love on all those platforms. And if you're not already following the channel, please do that now. On YouTube, it says subscribe, but it's the same thing. And smash that notification bell so you know when I come on. And with that, we will go ahead and get into today's show with our first article. Sound good? Sounds good to me. Let's get into it. All right. So there was a bit of toilet trouble on NASA's Artemis 2 mission to the moon. Apparently, their space toilet messed up. Kind of reminds me of an episode of The Big Bang Theory. Except that was supposedly the ISS. And this is our moon mission, our return to the moon. Well, the beginning of our return to the moon. It wasn't their number one problem, but it was a problem for going number one. Cape Canaveral, Florida, there was a little potty problem on NASA's Artemis 2 moon ship. Within hours of launching four astronauts on NASA's Artemis 2 mission around the moon, its crew reported a glitch in what may have been the most anticipated new creature comfort of their Orion spacecraft, their space toilet. Artemis 2 mission specialist Christina Koch, or Cock, or however you want to pronounce that. I would rather not call it Cock. Um, Noted an issue starting up part of the Orion capsule's toilet, which NASA calls the Universal Waste Management System, that deals with urine collection. Quote, the toilet fan is reported to be jammed. NASA spokesperson Gary Jordan said during live mission commentary, quote, now the ground teams are coming up with instructions on how to get into the fan and clear that area to revive the toilet for the mission. Norm Knight, NASA's director of flight operations, told reporters here at the Kennedy Space Center that the malfunction was due to a controller issue on the toilet. But NASA confirmed astronauts could still use the space commode to poop, just not urinate, though engineers were working to restore it to full service. In the meantime, they're getting their contingency, their backup waste management capabilities, specifically for urine. Quote, the fecal collection of the toilet, that specific capability can still be used with the waste management system aboard Orion. I hate when that happens right there. There we go. We got it fixed. A few hours after Coach reported to the toilet issue to Mission Control, flight controllers walked her through a series of steps to try and fix it. Quote, Houston, integrity, good checkout, Coach said after trying the fix. Then some relieving news. Quote, happy to report that toilet is go for use. Mission Control's Capcom Amy Dill radio coach. Quote, we do recommend letting the system get to operating speed before donating fluid and then letting it run a little bit after donation. Quote, we are cheers all around and we will do that, Coach replied. It does sound like at least one crew member used a contingency bag before the fix. Somebody had to go. Um, Coach reported that one CCU, or collapsible contingency urinal, was full and needed to be emptied overboard. Uh, Dill radioed up instructions on the best time for that dump, and all was well. What's going on, Aunt? Glad to see you in the chat. Um, that may be a relief for the Artemis 2 astronauts in more ways than one. NASA's Apollo astronauts did not have the luxury of a toilet when they flew to the moon in the 1960s and 70s. They peed and pooped in plastic bags and then stowed the solid waste and vented urine overboard into space. The toilet aboard Orion is a smaller, more compact version of the bathrooms on the International Space Station. It's built into the floor of the Orion capsule and allows Artemis 2 astronauts some privacy while taking care of business. While the Orion spacecraft is larger than NASA's Apollo capsules, it's still cramped. The interior has been compared to that of two SUVs. That's pretty large. The space of two SUVs. So that's, in my opinion, that's pretty large. Quote, The one place that we can go on our mission where we can feel like we're alone for a moment, Artemis 2 mission specialist Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency said of the toilet in a video overview. Let's see, how long is this video?
The one place that we can go during the mission where we could actually feel like we're alone for a moment. So here's a little tour of our toilet trainer. So this would be the floor of the Orion capsule. We have it set up here like this so that we can practice in gravity, but this would be the door. So if you were looking at the toilet from inside the capsule, this would be the floor. You would float over to it, open up this hinging door, and float on in. So here you can see the toilet, and there's enough room for you to float in here and close the door. This is just a toilet that we use for training and mocking up things to get a perspective on how we're going to manage this system on orbit. You have a urine hose, so this is where you collect all your urine. And then this is just like a toilet seat, and this is where the solid waste is collected. The feces gets sucked down into the bottom, into a bag, and you close that off and you squish it down into the bottom into the canister. During the mission, we'll have to change out that solid waste canister a few times, and all of that comes back to Earth with us. As far as the urine goes, it gets collected, and a few times a day we vent that urine to space. We're pretty fortunate as a crew to have a toilet with a door on this tiny spacecraft. The one place that we can go during the mission where we could actually feel like we're alone for a moment.
And there you go. Yeah, I don't know how valuable that would be, Ant, even though you saw it on a movie. Um, and I know that movie. It wasn't Centipede, it was the human centipede. The toilet is technically known as the hygiene bay and has about as much room as the bathroom on a passenger jet. According to Lockheed Martin, which built the Orion spacecraft for NASA, it's part of Orion's systems to support an astronaut crew. NASA's uncrewed Artemis 1 test flight in 2022 didn't carry one. Well, if it was uncrewed, it didn't need one. But there are, doggone it, but there are backup systems aboard. This is irritating me. There we go. Like those Apollo era bags if they're needed. The Artemis 2 astronauts use foot restraints to help them stay in place while using the toilet, which uses airflow to draw solid waste away from the body and into collection device. For urine, each astronaut has his or her own personal funnel to use with a fan that draws the urine into the tank. Um, that's absolutely an important component on this ship. Blaine Brown, Lockheed Martin's director of Orion spacecraft mechanical systems, told Space.com in an interview, quote, you can call it a luxury, some call it a necessity. Right? The urinal has a vacuum. Hopefully, they won't be abusing the vacuum. NASA Artemis 2 mission is a historic test flight to send astronauts on a 10-day trip around the moon. It's the first crewed flight of the Orion spacecraft and the Space Launch System rocket that launched them on their way. The mission is the vanguard of NASA's Artemis program, which aims to land astronauts on the moon by 2028 and begin a permanent moon base by 2032. So, the toilet was successfully repaired, so they've got a pot to poop in and a pot to pee in. So I just thought that would be a good story to liven the mood up and everything. With all the bad news in the world, we have to have some fun news, some good news. So, I figured I would go with this one to kind of liven things up and etc. Yeah, it probably is, and it probably is. So, mm, now I want you all. This is a WTF story that I'm about to share next. I want you all to let me know what you think about this. I mean, as soon as I pop this headline up, I want you to read it and tell me what you think. What's your first reaction besides insulting the person that it's talking about? So here it is. Gavin Newsom spends $20 million on consulting firm in an effort to find ways to cut waste. Now, y'all let me know what you think about that. What is your opinion? Just right off of the headline, before I even get into the article. Let me know. Come on, tell me what you think about that. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Well, you're right, Marilyn. Marilyn is at home today. So right, the jokes do write themselves, you know. But I mean, my literal first thought on this headline when I saw it was, I don't know, maybe don't spend 20 million on a consulting firm, to try to find ways to cut waste, because that just seems a waste. Yeah, quite possibly. He does remind me of a used car salesman. I think I've bought a used car from him once before myself. He reminds me of a used car salesman I used to know. That's the comb straight back hair and everything. I mean, the only thing the used car salesman I knew uh, didn't do that Gavin Newsom does is that hand jive. All that stuff he does with his hands. Yeah. California Governor Gavin Newsom has reportedly spent upwards of $20 million on a consulting firm that was going to search for ways to cut government waste. You could not make this up. This is the most Democrat government story ever. Newsom could have just looked at his state on his own and picked out expensive programs that aren't working and recommended that they be cut himself. But then he would have to own those decisions. Democrat base voters would then be likely to come after him for this and to hold him accountable. And Democrats are allergic to accountability. They're going to never own up to anything. By burying this under a big, expensive consulting firm, he can evade responsibility. The New York Post reports Newsom spends $20 million on consultants in struggling Doge inspired plan to cut waste. Governor Gavin Newsom has paid upwards of $20 million to a consulting firm that employs his former cabinet secretary to eliminate wasteful spending, but the effort has come up well short of the goal as stated lawmakers blasted the move. Of course they did. Newsom, who signed an executive order to cut spending in the state, a la Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, is hitting roadblocks with the plan amid a multi-billion-dollar state budget deficit. And that's exactly right, Marilyn. He's wasting money to figure out why he's wasting money. Huh? Well, yeah, that's possible. I would not put it past him. Marilyn said that it could be a money laundering scheme. This whole spend 20 million to learn how to cut waste, or to find out where you can cut waste, or whatever they're supposed to do. California contracted with one of the world's largest consulting firms, Boston Consulting Group, for up to 20 million in an effort to cut $2 billion in spending from the Departments of Corrections and Rehabilitation, Social Services, and Healthcare Services by the 2028-2029 fiscal year. But the group, which hired former Newsom cabinet secretary and Department of Finance Director Anna J. Matosantos, is now expected to only find $810 million in savings, according to legislative analysts. That number may even go down later in May, analysts added, as indicated by the Newsom administration. State lawmakers are scratching their heads over the miss. I don't know, it's starting to sound more and more like a money laundering scheme. Quote, this whole Boston Consulting Group contract has me mystified, Republican State Assembly member Tom Lackey said during a Thursday legislative hearing, according to Politico. And here are some X reactions, formerly known as Twitter. Gina Milan posts spending 20 million to cut fraud sounds like fraud. I agree. Wolfman says LMFAO, bro, seeing his presidential chance slipping. And, I think his presidential chances slipped away a while back. Quite a while back. Let's see. Jeremy, no longer in PDX, on X, says another 20 million down the toilet. Absolutely. It went straight down the toilet. That new toilet that they never built. Oh, that new public toilet that they never built. Chris Heatherly says the call is coming from inside the house, Gavin. If Gavin Newsom really wants to cut wasteful spending, perhaps he could start by not paying consultants millions of dollars to tell him what should be cut. It's a crazy idea, but that just might work. Edema is, oh wait, that's an ad. Yeah, ever since I had that issue, I now that the ads are in plain text and it's confusing. Okay, that was the end of that story. Okay. The call's coming from inside the house, Kevin. All right, up next. Female anchor baby of 2 Chinese illegal aliens busted on terrorism charges while brother remains at large. Parents in ICE custody. And this is exactly the kind of story that demonstrates why birthright citizenship has to go. It wasn't what the founding fathers intended when they made the 14th Amendment, and we've got to stop doing it. This is exactly right here, why we don't need the whole birthright citizenship thing. You know, exactly right here. Illegal aliens come, they spit out a baby, and that baby is a citizen, and which gives the parents legal right to stay. So hopefully, we'll get a positive result from the Supreme Court on this, and not have issues like these anymore. We can, go strip them of their citizenship and send them on their way. America's laws on birthright citizenship are undergoing fresh scrutiny thanks to 2 anchor babies who allegedly committed a startling crime. As the Daily Wire reported, the children of 2 illegal alien Chinese parents allegedly brought an explosive device to MacDill Air Force Base Visitor Center in Tampa last week. I really wish all the pollen would go away. It gets in my throat, and then, I start talking, and you see what happens. So, but we've got a good while left of dealing with the pollen. One of the siblings, 27-year-old Anne Zhang, has been arrested and charged for her part in the incident. The DOJ alleges that the brother and sister duo, quote, attempted to damage government property by fire or explosion. Moreover, they accuse Anne Zing of helping her brother, Alan Zing, in order to hinder and prevent his apprehension, trial, and punishment. Anne Zing was apprehended upon her return to the United States from China. Her brother remains at large. Authorities suspect Alan Zing is hiding out in China. The parents of the 2 alleged terrorists, Kin Zhu and Jie Zhang, wow, illegally entered the U.S. roughly 3 decades ago. They were arrested by the Department of Homeland Security back on March 18th and remain in ICE custody. Here's more from the Daily Wire on their background. They had applied for asylum in 1993, but their applications were denied by an immigration judge who ordered their removal from the U.S. in 1998. DHS says that the Board of Immigration Appeals repeatedly denied their attempts to have their case reopened. Despite this, they remained in the United States for decades. Acting Assistant Secretary Lauren Biss released a statement which noted the U.S. or how the U.S. process of granting birthright citizenship puts national security in danger. And it does. It absolutely does. Quote, Automatically granting citizenship to children of illegal aliens born in the U.S. is based on a historically inaccurate interpretation of the citizenship clause and poses a major national security risk, Biss said. That really became apparent last week when two U.S. born children of Chinese illegal aliens were indicted for planning a potentially deadly explosive device outside MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. She added, "This incident underscores the severe national security threat that illegal immigration and birthright citizenship pose to the United States." This horrifying incident comes as the Supreme Court considers President Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship. As the Gateway Pundit readers know, Trump says the 14th Amendment is being hijacked by the left to give citizenship to, quote, anchor babies, children of illegal migrants. He also explains in the executive order why the 14th Amendment has always excluded infants born illegally present in the United States. Quote, the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the United States. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenship persons who were born in the United States but not, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Consistent with this understanding, the Congress has further specified through legislation that, quote, a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a national and citizen of the United States at birth. Title 8 USC 1401, generally mirroring the 14th Amendment text, the order reads. And that was it. I hear you, Aunt. I hear you. Yeah, we've got to, hopefully I'm hoping and praying that the Supreme Court, when they make their ruling, I'm told it's expected. What is going on, Patriot? Glad to see you in the chat. I'm told that a ruling is expected sometime possibly in June. Hopefully, that ruling will be uh, a concurrence with President Trump's executive order and an end to this so called birthright citizenship crap. How are things in Somaliland? Well, I mean, you may as well call it Somaliland. Somaliland 2. Because there already is a Somaliland in Africa. So, um, so that this would be Somaliland 2. It'll get better, hopefully. Hopefully, I'm praying for you. So the doctor give you some of those high power painkillers, you know, stuff and knock you on your butt. Hey, when I had to have my knee replaced, they gave me some good stuff, man. Oh wow! And they gave me this little pill. It did nothing by itself, but if I took it with my painkiller, oh my god! I was on like cloud 2000, screw cloud 9. I mean, I had to went way past it, man. It boosted uh, the effects of the painkiller like 100 times. Yeah, so locked and loaded for those rats. You're afraid to take them. Why are you afraid to take them? Afraid you'll be, pain free and kind of high, and forget that you got to kind of baby it for a while. Oh, you might like it too much. Hey, my doctor in the same conversation, literally, tells me, that I am going to have severe pain for the rest of my life. And then turns around and tells me he is going to take me off of my pain medication completely. And now, because we've had some incidents involving, narcotics here in my area, a number of doctors went to prison over it. Um, you it's like pulling teeth to try to get anybody to prescribe you any type of painkillers. They tell you, oh no, you got to go to the specialized pain clinic. You know, I mean, and then you get a stigma because you go into the pain clinic, and people look at you different, like you're some kind of addict or something. But yeah, I mean, in the same, literally, from one sentence to the next, he tells me I'm going to be in pain for the rest of my life, and then well, I'm taking you off of your pain medication. He said he was worried I was going to get addicted to it, and I said, well, I'm going to have this pain for the rest of my life, right? Yeah. So what difference does it make if I'm addicted to it? I mean, if it takes me out of pain, what's the problem? If it makes me able to do things, what's the problem? Oh yeah, the main doctor that went to prison because of our incident around here was called Spurgeon Green. Yeah, if we were in Canada, MAID would be an option. They would send me that letter saying, "Oh, well, since your quality of life is so greatly reduced, rather than give you what you need, you can take advantage of our MAID system, medical assistance in death." You know, yeah, yeah, well, you got to do that rehab. Once that therapist says it's okay, then you can start doing stuff. They'll it'll be in stages. It'll be minimal weight at first, and then you can put some weight on it, and then gradually, until you are 100%. Then they'll say you're free to do whatever. If at that time, once you're 100%, you'll no longer need the therapy. I had to go through therapy, when they replaced my knee, so I know how it is. You know, I swore that that lady that came out, my therapist, was torturing me, and I swear she was getting off on it or something. but but anyway, oh, let's go on to the next story. law professor Jonathan Turley. We hear from him quite often. It's, quote, insane that we continue to embrace birthright citizenship. And it is. It is, absolutely. Um, Professor Jonathan Turley, who teaches law at George Washington University, appeared on Fox News this week to provide analysis of the birthright citizenship case currently being heard by the U.S. Supreme Court. Turley finds it ironic that the liberal justices on the court are suddenly interested in an originalist Scalia style interpretation of the Constitution. He also said that we are one of the few countries that still practice this insane policy. Professor Turley tends to lean liberal, but he is honest. The Daily Caller reported Jonathan Turley says it's insane. U.S. is one of the few countries with birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments Wednesday regarding President Donald Trump's executive order that ended birthright citizenship for children born to illegal aliens. Turley said on, quote, Fox and Friends that the current issues with birthright citizenship pose a major threat to the country. Quote, the fact that we are one of the few countries that continues to embrace birthright citizenship is perfectly insane. And it is a great danger to this government and to this republic, Turley said. So the question for these justices is not necessarily if they agree with birthright citizenship. I expect the majority does not. Turley said that the justices all appeared to be acting like originalists, meaning they interpreted the Constitution based on its original meaning at the time of adoption. The Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868 primarily to grant freed slaves and their children citizenship. It's exactly what it was for. The whole reason that there is a 14th Amendment. Well, this particular 14th Amendment, we shall say. Yeah, 42 was a minute ago for me too. So, yeah. Yeah, it's over a decade ago for me. So, you were shot in Afghanistan and lost 3 out of the 5 lobes in your lungs. Wow. Plus, it would not be safe to give you an automatic weapon. I hear you. I hear you. Um, but in the case of Iran, you wouldn't have that issue because they said that they're not going to be involved in the on the ground anything. They're happy to fly their planes and whatnot, but they don't want to put boots on the ground in Iran. So you wouldn't have that problem. You just have a bunch of Muslims running around. Quote, what was really astonishing yesterday is it appeared that we might have 9 originalists on the court because the liberal justices started to channel Scalia and to say, quote, oh, we've got to stick with the original intent here. These are justices when they look at other rights like the Second Amendment, treat that language as barely a speed bump, Turley continued. And they say, well, we have to look at this living Constitution and the problems we're facing today. Well, the problems we're facing today on birthright citizenship are existential in my view. And here's a little piece of video.
You're perfectly correct. I mean, the fact that we are one of the few countries that continues to embrace birthright citizenship is perfectly insane. And it is a great danger to this government and to this republic. So the question for these justices is not necessarily if they agree with birthright citizenship. I expect the majority does not. But this is what I call in my Supreme Court class a default case. It's when the record is messy. Where do the justices run home to? And what was really astonishing yesterday is it appeared that we might have 9 originalists on the court because the liberal justices started to channel Scalia and to say, oh, we've got to stick with the original intent here. These are justices, when they look at other rights like the Second Amendment, treat that language as barely a speed bump. And they say, well, we have to look at this living Constitution and the problems we're facing today. Well, the problems we're facing today on birthright citizenship are existential in my view. But conservatives tend to be, well, conservative. So when their default is that they don't read much into the language, and they seem to be going back to the precedent here.
Professor Turley,
There you go. And I agree with you. It's written on an animal hide, and it says what it says. And it's unchanging. I mean, First Amendment, Second Amendment, 14th Amendment, it doesn't matter. The founding fathers knew what they were writing when they wrote it, and I think it should apply. Period. Personally, that's my opinion. Turley went into more detail during a later appearance with Laura Ingraham in this video.
Here with his own analysis, Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor. Jonathan, I was just thinking all morning long, the president has not sat through an oral argument before, I don't believe. And this one was for the ages, but what do you think? He probably thought, where's the common sense here?
Well, that was the second great question, whether the president could sit absolutely silently as an argument went on that he felt strongly about. So we answered that question. He was able to do that, but it must have been hard at points because I'm sure some of these questions were maddening. The fact is, the policy is maddening. It's perfectly insane. That's why very few countries accept birthright citizenship. And so the difficulty with this case is that it's hard to really justify the policy when you look at what's happening with, in China alone, hundreds of these tourism sites are sending people over for the sole purpose of having children here. Only a moronic nation would allow that type of industry to flourish. None of our allies do in Europe. But these justices really were grappling with over 100 years of precedent. The hilarious aspect of this, Laura, and I'm sure you felt the same way, was to hear the liberal justices who rarely allow the language of the Constitution to stand in the way of a preferred interpretation. But they seem to be channeling Scalia today, talking about, we really have to go back to that original intent. And it's pretty clear this is the English rule. And that obviously played to the conservative justices. But, in my Supreme Court class, and we talked about this case, we presented it, I often ask my students in predicting the outcome, whether we have a default case. Sometimes you have a case where everything's in equipoise for justices. And the question is, where do they run home to? And for conservatives, they tend to run home to this place. They tend to follow the precedent. They tend not to read too much into the language. And that's benefiting the left here.
Well, one thing that was interesting, I thought, was this question of domicile, not to get too wonky, but what actually constitutes a current eligible person to have an American child, give birth to an American child. So the original precedent from 1898 were two essentially green card holders. I don't think they called it green card back then, but they were lawfully present in the United States. Totally different from illegally in the United States or coming here for the sole purpose of giving birth, which that family was not doing.
That's right. And in fact, the administration feels that that case, Juan Mark, supports them. The problem is the justices I was most looking at were not seemingly buying that. Roberts, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch. Kavanaugh was openly talking about ways that you could to finish off this case easily against the government. So it was a gulp moment for the government today.
Well, they were swinging for the fences over there in the SG's office, Jonathan, but I'm not sure that's going to pan out. Don't hold your breath for Congress to do anything on this. That's never happening either. Jonathan, I was wishing I could just watch President Trump during that whole argument. Thank you so much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
There we go. Turley's analysis is correct. It is an insane policy, and it is being abused by foreign actors who do not have America's best interest in mind. And that's exactly correct. And neither do the folks on the left. They don't have America's best interest in mind either, as they fight against the elimination of the birthright citizenship policy. So, but the Constitution is the Constitution, and it says, that they don't get birthright citizenship, and that's the way I see it. Period. So, what is everybody's opinion? Patriot, and I know your opinion, but there are others watching. They can chime in. And Killer Carl is on YouTube, wishing me a happy Good Friday, and I neglected to mention that to you all. Happy Good Friday to y'all. But what's going on with you, Carl, over on YouTube? Right? So the way I see it when I'm in the Middle East, I mean, anything brown is a threat. I'm taking it out. So up next, we have this one right here. ICE arrests Milwaukee mosque president Salah Sarsour for alleged immigration fraud. But of course he committed immigration fraud. The Department of Homeland Security announced the arrest of Jordanian national Salah Sarsour in Milwaukee. Sarsour, who is president of the board of directors of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee, Wisconsin's largest mosque, being held in ICE custody in Indiana. Sarsour is also a board member of the national pro-Palestinian advocacy organization, American Muslims for Palestine. DHS says Sarsour is a terrorist and was convicted of throwing Molotov cocktails at the homes of Israeli soldiers. Sarsour then allegedly lied on his U.S. immigration applications to obtain a green card under President Bill Clinton. DHS shared, quote, today ICE arrested a Jordanian national with a prior conviction for throwing a Molotov cocktail at the homes of Israeli forces. Quote, he lied on his immigration application and became a green card holder under President Clinton. This terrorist will remain in ICE custody pending removal proceedings. And there is the post with a picture of Sarsour there. He really looks like a butthole. You just get that butthole vibe. Sarsour raised funds for the Holy Land Foundation, which was shut down by the U.S. government. In 2008, the HLF was found guilty of funneling over $12 million to Hamas terrorists. Sarsour has been tied to radical squad member Representative Rashida Tlaib. Get her out of here too, who arranged fundraising events for her in both 2018 and 2020. You know, yeah, they can both go and take Ilhan Omar with you. Or as I am concerned, I really don't care. The watchdog group Canary Mission notes on November 5th, 2001, Salah Sarsour was reportedly listed in an 2001 FBI action memorandum as a fundraiser for Hamas in the United States. The memorandum stated that Salah's, quote, involvement with Hamas and his fundraising activities for the terror group were through the Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development. The memorandum also stated that Salah's brother, Imad, was also a Hamas fundraiser. 5 individuals were indicted for funneling funds to Hamas in the guise of humanitarian aid through HLF. The men were all convicted and sentenced in 2009 to federal prison terms ranging from 15 to 65 years. And that was all for that one. So, this terrorist who was raising funds for terrorists is now in ICE custody and pending removal proceedings. You're going to boot him out of the country. You ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Get out. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I say they all got to go. Every last one of them. Yes. So, I mean, everybody here knows how I feel about these people. And, I think that they need to be gone. Get them out of here. There are 56 Muslim countries in this world. Send them to any one of them. They'll be happy. So Rumble says that I have to take a moment to do this thing. So I'm going to do this thing here. You probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. And the ad reads like this one that I have to do for sponsors. Um, Plus, premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind the scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code studio at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium. Use the promo code studio at checkout. The link is in the description below, or you can type it into your browser, rumble.com/premium. Or you can go to that QR code right there. Just scan that, and it'll take you right to where you need to be to get your premium account on Rumble, and use that studio code, promo code studio, at your checkout to get that $10 off of your subscription to Rumble Premium. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code studio at checkout. Get it today. And I thank y'all for bearing with me through that. I know it sucks, but the Rumble overlords, they sometimes pop that light on, and it tells me that it is time to pay the bill. Got to get that shekel break. Got to get that shekel break. Absolutely. They pop that light on and expect me to jump. So anyway, let us move on, ever onward and forward. Never straight, because only queers and drug addicts go straight. Mamdani's New York. Masked man kills a 7-month-old baby in a stroller in broad daylight. Now, I will go ahead and give you the heads up. This was, a sort of drive-by type situation. 2 men on a scooter, one driving and one with the gun. They just kind of drove by a crowd of people and randomly fired the gun. It's not believed that there was a direct target. They were just shooting to be shooting. Guess they consider that fun. No, I don't think they were celebrating anything. I think they were just shooting fish in a barrel, so to speak. So, but yeah, they, it's not like they intended. It's not like somebody walked up to the stroller and shot the child. Yeah, scooting by shooting. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the story here. Walking down the street can be deadly in Mayor Zoran Mamdani's New York City. On Wednesday, a 7-month-old child was shot to death as her mother pushed her in a stroller down a Brooklyn street, according to WABC TV. The 1 p.m. shooting took place when 2 men on a moped zoomed down the street, the masked passenger firing 2 shots into passers-by. And you can see here, NYPD News posted on X, wanted for homicide on 4/1/2026 at 1:21 p.m. A baby was shot and killed near Moore Street and Humboldt Street in Brooklyn. The NYPD is looking for 2 males who fled northbound on a moped near Humboldt Street. If you have any information, you can call that number or go to at NYPD tips. I'm assuming on X. So, and there is a picture of one of them. There is a picture of the pair riding on the scooter. It almost, looking at this, it almost looks like there's 3 people on that scooter. Almost, there's not enough legs to account for 3 people, but looking at it up here, up towards the top, it kind of almost looks like there's 3 people there. One bullet struck the baby, Cowrie Patterson Moore, killing her. The moped continued on until it struck a car. Yes, they literally ran head on into a car, sending its occupants flying. One person, a 21-year-old man, was taken into custody. The second escaped. After the gunshots, her parents pushed the child to a nearby bodega where they saw the girl was drenched in her own blood, according to WNBC TV. Everybody getting in on this action. Sifan Kim on X says suspects who opened fire into a crowd, killing a 7-month-old baby in Brooklyn, fled heading the wrong way down one-way street. Crashed 2 blocks away. Rear passenger, alleged gunman, taken to the hospital where he was arrested. Moped found more than a mile away. NYPD manhunt underway for the driver. And here, this is not the whole incident. This is the part where they crash into the car. I think it's funny. Here we go. Boom. See that? And I think, oh boy, here, he busted up his leg pretty good. I think it might be, broken in multiple places. You see how it's kind of dangling and kind of bobbling, all limp. Now they drove off, but apparently, old dude didn't make it. He ended up getting captured. But yeah, we're gonna play that again, just for the heck of it. Boom, and they go flying. You see the way that foot is just kind of flopping, all limp and whatnot. I think it's broken in multiple places. Watch it one more time. Hang on. Oof. The way he hit. I'm going to see if I can slow that down. No, it doesn't have it. It doesn't give me the settings on it to be able to do that. I would have to download the video and put it through my stuff and actually slow it down. But yeah, he looks like he's hurt pretty good there. And I say that was like instant karma, but it wasn't bad enough. They didn't get enough punishment. They need to do some time in prison. Truthfully, the shooter should actually get the death penalty because he killed a baby. Maybe it wasn't his intent to kill the baby. I just don't care because he indiscriminately shot into a crowd where there were children and elderly folk. So, I mean, that's my opinion. Yep, and I'm sticking to it, as Marilyn just said. So, quote, "This is a terrible day in our city, a tragedy that truly shocks the conscience. As a mother, I cannot imagine the pain that this family is feeling for the grief that they now carry with them. It is unspeakable," New York PD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said. The child's mother, Leanna Charles Moore, said she thought her family was safe, then realized what had happened, according to the New York Post. Quote, I was hugging my son, and then when I looked to my left, my daughter was just there, lying there. She was shot in the head. She was just bleeding. It was too much, Charles Moore said. And this here on the right, that is the baby in question, along with a picture of the shooter and driver on their scooter. And this, I really can't tell what that is. I'm going to go ahead and click it and share it with you all. Here it is on the Daily Mail. Let me make some adjustments to this so that maybe I can get the whole thing in on the screen. There we go. That's when they went in the bodega. That's her flipping out when she realized. There's the baby. Okay, for some reason it went on to a sea lion thing. Let's there. Now we're going to watch this video again. Yeah, without the seal. Okay. Some viewers may find this upsetting. There it is. She realized what happened and she is flipping out. And understandably so. Understandably so. There. I thought I stopped it. There we go. All right. And let's see. There we go. All right. So, witnesses said the tragedy happened in an instant. Quote, I was in the supermarket and coming out with my sandwich. I heard a commotion and a shot. Once you hear shots in the air, you duck. I saw a girl on the floor with her baby, Vincent Valsicel. I guess that's how you say that. 63 said, according to the New York Post. A witness who would only give her name as Miss Jones said she witnessed the end of the tragedy at the hospital. Daniel Friedman on X posts the killers were two men on a moped, one driving and one riding behind him, who was the shooter. This is the MO of Venezuelan gangs who have become notorious, committing two-man armed robberies on these vehicles in New York since Joe Biden let them into the country. Quote, I heard someone say, my baby, my baby. She was just like, save my baby, Jones said. She was trying to tell her baby to wake up, telling the baby to wake up. She said, police, quote, came and told the mother, and she went crazy. She lost it. Then the last thing I heard her say was, no, no, no. She was just screaming out, no, I can't believe this. WABC reported that the 21-year-old suspect in custody was wanted on an unrelated domestic violence related robbery, and that police believed he was affiliated with a gang. Uh, Police have launched a manhunt for the other suspect. Well, considering that it is in Mamdani's New York, where they have released murderers here recently with nothing more than don't do that again, basically. I seriously doubt there's going to be any justice unless it is street justice. And that may happen. You never know these days. Mamdani's New York is basically a lawless city, unless you count the Sharia cops. Yes, they have Sharia cops in New York now, but they are, the police have become kind of disillusioned. They're not likely to really come to your aid all that much unless it is like a serious crime like this one. But the district attorneys and etc., they're just not doing the job of a DA or a prosecutor. They are, letting people go for murder and various other severe violent crimes. And what you gonna do? I mean, the only thing left is street justice. And in New York, I would not put that past the people of New York, the ones that are left. You know, um, so many have fled from New York City, but it is going to become a mecca for Muslims now, as more and more New Yorkers leave. More and more of the so-called Muslim community will be uh, migrating there. You know, everywhere else. Well, mostly they're moving to red states. Places like Florida, Tennessee. You know, yeah. Yes, they are tired of this crap. They absolutely are. I think many of them are starting to have buyer's remorse. The ones that are there in New York who, you know, are kind of locked into New York, because of their jobs and whatnot, what have you. Um, they're starting to have some serious buyer's remorse for electing Zoran Mamdani. You know, um, so I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens in the future. But let's move on. Let's move on. Ever onward, as they say. Back to the Gateway Pundit. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche breaks his silence after Bondi ouster, slams, quote, fake narratives, vows DOJ reckoning on lawfare, fraud, and foreign influence. Okay, Todd Blanche, I will believe it when I see it. Talk is cheap. Let's see some action. Let's see some handcuffs. That is my feeling. During an appearance on Jesse Watters Primetime Thursday night, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche stepped into the spotlight just hours after President Donald Trump tapped him to lead the DOJ following the sudden firing of Attorney General Pam Bondi. It was not sudden, it was actually expected. Blanche pushed back hard against media speculation surrounding Pam Bondi's departure and the state of the DOJ. When pressed by Watters on what, quote, really happened to Bondi, Blanche didn't hesitate to torch what he described as dishonest reporting. Make a quick adjustment here. There we go. Blanche even shot down reports that Bondi tipped off Eric Swalwell about the Fang Fang files. And he's not the only one that shot that down. You know, it has been shut down by multiple representatives of the White House as well. So, Acting AG Todd Blanche. Well, this is transcript, so I'm just going to skip to the video. Why read what they're about to say? Here is the video.
What happened to Pam?
I mean, look, I think a lot of, Jesse, first of all, thanks. It's great to be here. A lot of what you just said about what happened to the Attorney General is simply not true. As President Trump said today, the Attorney General made our country safe again, and she is a friend, and she did a great job in the first year of this administration, and people should not forget what the Department of Justice that she came into just over a year ago. And so we are a better Justice Department. We are safer as a nation, and we should all be very grateful to the Attorney General for her sacrifice for this country and for what she did.
Yeah, I like Pam Bondi too, but she didn't give Swalwell a heads up on the Fang Fang files, did she?
I would not believe that for a second. Okay. Absolutely, positively not.
Okay. The president reportedly, probably obviously frustrated that the cases against Tish and Schiff and Brennan and Comey not really going anywhere. Are you the guy that's going to be able to get that done?
Look, I think the president is frustrated. Everybody is frustrated because what we saw happen for the past 4 years is unforgivable and can never happen again. And so certainly I don't mind the frustration. I appreciate the frustration because we do have to make sure that what happened for 4 years never happens again. And we don't talk about investigations, but I can tell you that the Department of Justice is working hard every day. It was working hard yesterday, and we're going to keep on working hard tomorrow, and I'm honored that President Trump has asked me to step in as acting, and also much appreciative for what Pam Bondi did for the past year.
I mean, you get the anger. I mean, what Biden and Obama did to this president, you understand there's a lot of anger about that, right?
Not only do I understand, I lived it, Jesse. You don't forget, I was on your show the night 2 years ago, the night that President Trump was found guilty in Manhattan in the middle of the lawfare. So I do not need any kind. I had a firsthand accounting of what happened, and so yes, I understand it. The American people understand it, and I know that the American people expect that it will never happen again, and we take that seriously.
Yeah, you fought that case hard. You absolutely did. Now the Epstein files, you'd agree, not handled well.
And I don't, first of all, I have never heard President Trump say that the Attorney General that anything that happened to her had anything to do with the Epstein files. And so look, the Epstein files has been a saga that's lasted for the past year. And what happened when the president signed the Transparency Act is the Department of Justice has now released all the files with respect to the Epstein saga. And the Attorney General Bondi and I appeared in front of Congress voluntarily a couple weeks ago to answer any questions they had. We have made every single congressman, senator available to come and see any document, redacted, unredacted, that they want. And so I think that to the extent that the Epstein files was a part of the past year of this Justice Department, it should not be a part of anything going forward.
Okay, well, I mean, you've combed through these files, right? Who was Epstein spying for?
Look, I don't know that he was spying for anybody. Nobody's ever said that.
No? You don't think he might have been a spy for a foreign country?
I have no idea if he was a spy. All I know is that we don't have any evidence in the Epstein files that the FBI collected over 15 years that suggests that, Jesse. I don't know. I wasn't part of the original prosecution team. Neither was Attorney General Bondi. And I can tell you this, there's only one president that's held Mr. Epstein accountable, and that's Donald J. Trump. During his first administration, that was the administration that prosecuted him. And during this administration, it's the administration that's been totally transparent and released all the files. And no matter how much criticism people want to make about the Epstein files, that is indisputable. It's undisputable that nobody talked about the Epstein files for 4 years during Biden, 4 years. And so when President Trump said, let's release the Epstein files, and the law was passed that allowed us to legally do it, we did it.
Okay. I'm not sure you totally get what people feel about that, but I want to move on. The fraud situation. I love the fraud czar. I'm thrilled that you guys are cracking down everywhere across the country. I know that Tim Walz is under investigation. Where does that stand?
Look, I will tell you this. You are right. This is an important and long overdue objective. Just today in Los Angeles, we had a takedown. 8 individuals were arrested for allegedly bilking over $50 million of intended loss from our taxpayer monies. And yes, this includes leadership in state governments, our investigations do, because guess what? They are in many ways the actual conduit. They're letting it happen by not doing anything to stop these individuals stealing from the American people. And so you're going to see this Department of Justice pour all of our heart and soul into fraud cases all over this country for the foreseeable future.
That is music to my ears, because we're sick of getting ripped off. Speaking of getting ripped off, I don't know if you saw, the New York Times is saying the Democrats were taking millions of dollars in foreign donations and may have been lying about it. Are you looking into this?
I can tell you that is a priority of this administration and this Department of Justice, and it's something that a lot of people have been very worried about for a very long time, and you should rest assured that it includes the Department of Justice and it includes me.
All right. Todd Blanche, thank you so much for joining us. And
all right. Well, as I said at the beginning of this story, I want to see something, I'll believe it when I see it. I understand he wants to talk big because now he is in the hot seat. He is the one everyone is looking to for justice and in some cases revenge. Many conservatives just simply want revenge. The Democrats have done, President Trump and the conservative movement so terribly wrong that many think that they should feel some of the same medicine. I mean, as they say, fight fire with fire. So but I personally I want to see some results. I want to see some people in cuffs. I want to see some perp walks. I want to see some mug shots, and not just the peon nobodies, the foot soldiers in any of this. I want to see some names because there are people that we know, were involved and are as dirty as anybody in regards to a lot of this fraud and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to see some of them go down. The so-called, as President Trump called it, the J6 Unselect Committee. The judges and prosecutors that did the J6ers so wrong. That is not what I said. I said that's what I want to see. I said I will believe what Todd Blanche says when I see it. I never said that. Don't put words in my mouth. I mean, I am waiting, to see if this guy puts his money where his mouth is. And if he doesn't, well, then he is just as bad as Bondi. Bondi batted a 0 when it comes to things that the people wanted. So, let's see what Blanche does. Let's see if he even actually tries. That's the thing. At least they could try. Well, maybe he is. I don't know. I haven't placed any hopes on him. I will repeat. I'll believe it when I see it. Maybe he is the new hopium. I don't know. For him to be the new hopium, he would have to give the people some reason to hope. That means he's got to do something. Because most everybody, saw what Pam Bondi did, and it went from let's give her some support to she's batting a 0, get her out of there. Since the beginning of the year. So I mean, she's been AG for a year, and she had plenty of time to actually do something. She batted a 0, and I mean, even some of her hardcore supporters were like, "Yeah, get her out of there because she's not doing anything." I will believe these people when I see some results. I want to see some results. I would like to see. That would be ecstatic if I actually saw some results. But I'm not seeing results. I mean, I was one of those that was like, give Pam Bondi a chance and whatnot in the beginning. But then as time went on, it was less and less because, she was batting a 0. I mean, yeah, there were things that she did, and those were things that was actually just her normal job. There were things that were, a little above and beyond the normal work of the attorney general. The special projects and things like that the American people want outside of her normal job. I mean, she did some good stuff, but she was batting a 0 on the things that the people want. Probably. Probably. But that she's moving on to some really cushy, high paying, executive position or something like that, or maybe even going to become a contributor, a regular contributor to Fox News or something. Might even become like an anchor, get her own show. you know? Well, she's gonna go on to do something where she's sitting pretty. You know, you can be sure of that. It's that whole, golden parachute thing. They when they fail, they don't fail downward; they fail upward. you know, so. But we'll see what Todd Blanche does. And in the interim, we will watch and see who President Trump nominates to take that position permanently. We'll see if it's Todd Blanche, or we'll see if it's Lee Zeldin, or who it is. I don't know. She may possibly still be useful. They may not want to have her drive into a tree just yet. Oh, I mean, hell, for all we know, all of this, fire this one and fire that one and whatnot, could be a freaking psyop for all we know. I mean, you never know these days, you know. So, but anyway, let us move on, ever onward, ever forward. So, then we have this story here. Big pharma giants Pfizer and BioNTech forced to shut down COVID-19 booster shot trials after Americans refuse to be guinea pigs. Oh, poor things. They had to shut down their trials. Americans are tired of being guinea pigs. For so long, the government has financed these companies and these laboratories and stuff to do trials on the American people without the American people even really realizing it. The whole COVID-19 thing, the whole, all those vaccines were experimental. We were the human trials. Those people that actually took the darn things. I didn't. Heck, I was homeless through that whole thing. Me and Marilyn both were. We were homeless through that thing. Never got the shot and never got COVID. And Marilyn was actually exposed directly to COVID-19. Never got it. Sure, you can post a link. Yeah, just post it up in the chat there. Major big pharma companies have abruptly halted their latest COVID-19 mRNA, quote, booster trial because they literally couldn't find enough willing participants. After years of gaslighting the American public, raking in hundreds of billions in profits from the experimental shots that were shoved down our throats under the guise of, quote, public health, the same corporations that partnered with the Biden regime, Anthony Fauci, and the lying mainstream media are now facing the cold, hard reality. Americans are done being lab rats. According to internal letters sent to trial investigators and obtained by Reuters, Pfizer is ending its study of, quote, updated shots in healthy adults age 50 to 64. The company admitted it was, quote, unable to generate relevant data because recruitment had effectively hit a brick wall. Reports indicate that more than 80% of potential recruits didn't even make it past pre-screening or simply refused to participate. The trial, which aimed to enroll a massive 25,000 to 30,000 participants folded after failing to meet even the most basic enrollment targets. This comes at a time when the quote science is being scrutinized like never before. Under the current administration, the FDA has been pressured to actually require randomized placebo controlled trials, the very thing skeptics have been demanding for years. It seems that when Big Pharma actually has to play by the rules and prove efficacy to a skeptical public, they simply can't find the quote volunteers anymore. Pfizer isn't the only one feeling the heat. Moderna is reportedly facing similar recruitment challenges for its own 30,000 person study. Biospace reported, and I'll get to your link momentarily, Pfizer and BioNTech told Reuters they are halting the study because slow enrollment is preventing them from generating relevant post-marketing data on the vaccine. Quote, this is a very difficult population to recruit, an unnamed executive at a contract research organization involved in the trial added on the condition of anonymity. People with chronic conditions such as hypertension or diabetes were ineligible for the study. Quote, even when patients are willing to participate in COVID studies, more than 80% fail at pre-screening because they don't meet the health criteria, the executive told Reuters. Quote, it's been a real challenge to enroll enough patients, particularly given the scale of these trials. The news comes after the FDA imposed new requirements on COVID-19 vaccines last year. In May, the agency announced it would require data from placebo-controlled trials to inform decisions about whether to support the use of COVID-19 vaccines in people aged 50 to 64. Neither Pfizer and BioNTech's Comirnaty or Moderna's Spikevax and next generation mNext Spike has full approval on this age group. Moderna is also running a COVID-19 vaccine trial in people aged 50 to 64. Sources at 4 sites involved in the study told Reuters that the company is also facing enrollment challenges. Moderna has yet to comment on the trial's enrollment rate, although commercial challenges in the U.S. vaccine market could suggest a dip in the number of people interested in the trial. Yeah, they're probably not paying enough, for these human trials. That's probably a fact right there. So, oh yeah, I'm actually familiar with this article. I think I actually presented this article a while back. It is an interesting article. I'll go ahead and share it with everyone and see what everyone thinks. Psychology says kids who grew up in the 60s and 70s learned a version of emotional resilience that modern parenting has accidentally engineered out of an entire generation. And that's a fact. That is a fact. You know, um, as we grew up way back in the day, you know, the way that our parents, really basically allowed us to raise ourselves, and we learned lessons, and we experienced things, that kids today just they don't have any idea. They have never experienced. They've never learned certain lessons, and parents seem to have forgotten those things. People my age, who should know these things, they seem to have forgotten, or maybe it is selective amnesia where they choose to forget. Um, On a typical Saturday morning in the early 70s, childhood looked very different from today. Many kids were sent outside with a simple instruction, quote, be home for dinner. There were no smartphones, no constant supervision, and no carefully curated schedules. Children built forts, argued over game rules, and got lost in their neighborhoods, and occasionally came home with scraped knees and bruised pride. At the time, no one called it emotional development, it was simply childhood. But modern psychology suggests that those unstructured, unsupervised experiences may have quietly cultivated a kind of resilience that is less common among children today. It is uncommon in children today, not less common. It's completely missing, in my opinion. This isn't about glorifying the past or criticizing modern parents. Every generation responds to its own realities. However, research into how childhood has changed over the past 5 decades raises important questions about what children need in order to develop emotional strength. Play was more than entertainment. You actually were learning lessons. And it's true. In the 60s and 70s, free play wasn't an extracurricular activity, it was the default. Many households had working parents who couldn't hover over every interaction. As a result, children spent hours navigating their own games, friendships, and challenges. Research published in medical and psychological journals has found that risky, unstructured play helps children build distress tolerance and emotional regulation. When kids climb trees, ride bikes downhill, or organize their own games, they confront manageable risks. They learn to assess danger, handle minor injuries, and cope with losing or failing. It's a fact. These experiences strengthen what psychologists call self efficacy, the belief that one can handle challenges independently rather than being coached through every difficulty. Children learned by doing. That's right. And still to this day, I learn by doing. You know, the power of boredom. Boredom was a powerful thing back then, especially the result of telling an adult that you were bored. Think back as to what happened if you told an adult in your family that you were bored. No, they would give you something to do, and you never liked it. Boredom, once a routine part of childhood, has become increasingly rare. In past decades, children often had long stretches of unstructured time. Without instant entertainment, they had to invent games, create stories, or explore their surroundings. Research highlighted in publications such as Psychology Today has documented a steady decline in creativity among American school children beginning in the 1980s. That's right. Kids don't have an imagination anymore. We used to have to, make stuff up on the fly. We had to imagine things. We had to, create our own fun. We had to pretend. We had, all the things that kids don't know how to do anymore. Problem solving, yes, absolutely. You know, one contributing factor may be the gradual elimination of unstructured time. When children are constantly scheduled, sports practice, tutoring, enrichment programs, they have fewer opportunities to develop creative problem solving skills. Learning to tolerate boredom is more than passing time. It builds patience, imagination, and emotional endurance. Unsupervised play also forced children to manage social conflict independently. In a pickup game without adults present, disagreements had to be resolved by the participants themselves. If no compromise was reached, the game ended. Or somebody got in a fight and, well, it was decided by who lost. A common occurrence. Developmental psychologist Peter Gray has argued that the decline in children's independent play correlates with rising rates of anxiety and depression. Over the past several decades, as opportunities for free play have decreased, reported mental health challenges among adolescents have increased. Absolutely. When adults mediate every argument or step in at the first sign of tension, children miss out on practicing negotiation, compromise, and emotional regulation. Sharing bedrooms, navigating sibling rivalries, and resolving disputes with peers were once everyday training grounds for social resilience. Beginning in the mid 1980s, a noticeable cultural shift occurred. Parenting became more intensive and protective. While the intention was safety and opportunity, research suggests that excessive intervention may carry unintended consequences. A systematic review published in Frontiers in Psychology found consistent links between, quote, helicopter parenting and higher levels of anxiety and depression in children. When parents solve problems preemptively and shield children from discomfort, they may unintentionally communicate a lack of confidence in their child's ability to cope. Over time, children may internalize that message, leading to reduced self confidence when facing independent challenges. Similarly, research from the American Psychological Association has shown that over controlling parenting can negatively affect a child's emotional regulation and behavioral adjustment in school and social environments. The lesson is not that children should be left unsupported, but that growth requires manageable obstacles. The shift towards structured childhood was later intensified by technology. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt, author of, quote, The Anxious Generation, argues that children transitioned rapidly from a, quote, play based childhood to a, quote, phone based childhood. Around 2012, rates of anxiety, depression, and self harm among adolescents began to rise sharply. Haidt suggests that the loss of real world independence combined with constant digital comparison created a vulnerable environment. Instead of climbing trees or negotiating playground disputes, many children now spend hours online, exposed to social pressures and curated images that amplify insecurity. Without regular real world challenges, children may lack the emotional, quote, muscle needed to manage these pressures effectively. One useful concept borrowed from Nassim Taleb's work is, quote, anti fragility. Children, like bones, grow stronger when exposed to manageable stress. Small setbacks, losing a game, missing a team, getting lost briefly, and finding the way home provide the friction necessary for growth. In earlier decades, these minor failures were woven into daily life. They were uncomfortable, but not catastrophic. Today, when adults remove every obstacle, children may be deprived of opportunities to build resilience gradually. No one is suggesting a return to the 70s. Advances in safety awareness and child well being are important achievements. However, the research indicates that independence, unstructured play, and manageable risk remain essential ingredients in healthy development. Allowing children to walk to a friend's house, resolve sibling disagreements before stepping in, or experience boredom without immediate distraction can help rebuild some of the resilience that earlier generations developed naturally. The question facing modern families is not whether to protect children, but how to balance protection with preparation. Emotional strength is rarely built in comfort alone. It grows through challenge, autonomy, and the confidence that comes from learning, sometimes the hard way, that you can handle more than you think. Right. Snipe hunting had a purpose back in the day. Yes, absolutely. God damn it. I knocked something over, made a loud racket. But yes, you are right. Snipe hunting has a purpose. It builds character. We'll say. Um, but yeah, this I'm actually very familiar with this article, and if I'm not mistaken, I did actually present this article a while back. Um, if it wasn't this same article, it was a very similar article, um, saying pretty much exactly the same thing. But I am actually familiar with this article. Um, I found it interesting, and hopefully you all did too. It's what yeah. One of her little. It's still soft. It hasn't completely cured up. One of her little massager soaps. You know, this one she says is cucumber, and it is actually made with real cucumber, and it smells pretty good. And yep, I had a little soap residue on my fingers. It made my fingers all slippery because it's still soft. It hasn't completely cured up. But anyway, um, and with that, that was my last article. So, do we have any further discussion? Anybody want to talk about anything that we have discussed today, or anything in general? I mean, what say you all? Yeah, we're all glad they got their space toilet fixed. Yeah. You know, we wouldn't want the astronauts exploding because they held their poop in. So, I mean, because after a while of holding it, it's gonna come out. So they would end up having to put a cork in that sucker. Some silicone caulking or something. You know. I mean, and eventually the pressure is going to build up, and kaboom. Poop hits the fan literally, and other stuff as well. So yeah, any further discussion, any questions, comments, opinions? Are we all happy that Bondi is gone? Okay, Aunt, you got to go to bed later on, dude. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call this a show. And I'm going to ask you all to do me a favor, go down below and show me some love. Hit that like, hit that thumbs up, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is on your platform. I know on most platforms it is a thumbs up. So just go down and hit that, and hit that follow or subscribe button, whichever you have, and smash that notification bell so you know when I come on. And thank you so much. You could have watched anyone's show. You came and watched mine, and I thank you so much for that. And God bless you all. God bless America. Lord knows this country needs all the blessings it can get. And come back and see me Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. When you do, remember Big Tony will speak on it. For now, this has been Big Tony Speaks, and I'm Big Tony, your host, and I'm saying y'all have a great evening. Have a great Easter. Come and see me on Big Tony Speaks the Word Sunday morning. And I'm out of here. Y'all have a great one.